The lecture hall of the Galactic Institute of Behavioral Science was a cathedral of glass and light, suspended above the violet clouds of Orpheon 4, where gravity hummed like a heartbeat and knowledge was treated like religion. Rows of alien scholars shimmered in seats grown from living crystal, their forms ranging from serpentine to gaseous to pure light. Yet today, all their eyes, multifaceted, liquid, or mechanical, were fixed on the small group at the center, the Terrans. 12 humans sat there in silence, their uniforms simple, their posture impossibly composed. To the other species, they were living contradictions, apex predators who spoke softly, smiled kindly, and carried the weight of a history drenched in survival. At the podium, Professor Thal Ren of the Illith Consortium adjusted his translucent tendrils, his voice echoing through the chamber like ripples in a pond. Today's subject, he began, is violence as a cognitive construct. For the sake of comparison, his bioluminescent gaze swept over the humans. I ask you this question, one purely academic, of course. He paused. The translator nodes hummed. Who among you, he said slowly, has killed? The question hit the air like a blade through silk. For the alien audience, it was obscene. On most civilized worlds, killing had been eradicated long before starflight. Conflict was settled by thought councils, simulations, or ritual empathy. Death was a failure of reason. But among the humans, there was no hesitation. One by one, they raised their hands. A pilot with burn scars on his neck. A biologist whose soft eyes didn't match her firm grip. Even the historian whose only weapon was memory. Each hand rose without pride, without shame, simply acknowledgement. Gasps rippled through the audience. One crystalline being flickered in distress. Another, a being of spores, collapsed into a quivering cloud. Professor Thalren froze mid-gesture. All of you? He whispered. The captain, Elias Morrow, spoke first, voice calm as deep water. Most of us served, sir. Defense, exploration, containment. Sometimes things happen that can't be undone. The professor's tendrils quivered in unease. And you feel nothing? Morrow's jaw tightened. We feel everything. That's why we remember. Then Thalren noticed her. At the far end of the human row sat a woman in a white medical uniform, pale skin under the blue light, hands folded, gaze steady. She hadn't raised her hand. You, he said, pointing one luminous tendril toward her. You have not killed? The medic's voice was quiet, but it cut through the noise like glass. No, she said. I save lives. The silence that followed was heavier than gravity. Around her, her comrades sat still, their hands raised, slowly lowering, not in shame, but in respect. To every alien watching, it was incomprehensible. To the humans, it was sacred truth. Because in that single moment, the galaxy learned that humanity's strength wasn't in how easily they could kill, but in how deeply it haunted them when they did. The corridors of the Galactic Institute had never been so loud. Whispers followed the Terrans everywhere, flickering in languages of sound, color, and scent. Savages. Killers. Monsters wrapped in diplomacy. Even the walls seemed to lean away from them, as if the metal itself feared their heartbeat. To most galactic species, violence was primitive, a failure of evolution. Yet the humans had sat there, unflinching, hands raised beneath the sterile blue glow. It wasn't arrogance. It was something worse. Honesty. Professor Thalren couldn't stop thinking about it. His kind had studied predators before, efficient, instinctual killers with no concept of remorse. But the humans had looked almost regretful, as though every life they'd taken lived behind their eyes. He summoned them to his private study that evening. The chamber was circular, lined with memory glass that shimmered with historical projections. The moment the humans entered, the door sealed with a soft hiss. "Please," Thalren said gently, through his translation. "Help me understand. Your species mastered peace through death?" Captain Morrow stood at attention, arms behind him. "Peace wasn't given to us," he said evenly. "We built it, one grave at a time." The room fell silent. "On Earth," Morrow continued, "our ancestors fought everything: nature, disease, each other. Killing wasn't glory. It was survival. And when the killing finally stopped, we realized we'd rather die than start again." A murmur of disbelief arose among the alien aides present. One of them, a being made of translucent filaments, quivered. "You sound proud of it," it whispered. Morrow's eyes hardened. "No, proud people don't remember the names of those they've killed." Thalren's gaze turned toward the medic. "And you did not raise your hand. Do you feel separate from them?" The medic's expression didn't change. "No," she said. "I clean up what they can't." Her words hit harder than any confession. Even the captain lowered his eyes. He tilted his head, fascinated. "Then you hold life sacred." The medic exhaled slowly. "I hold suffering sacred." No one spoke. She stepped closer to the professor's desk. "I've seen men die to protect strangers. I've seen soldiers carry enemies out of burning ships. We kill, yes, but we mourn every time we do. That's what makes us human." Thalren's bioluminescence flickered. "Such contradiction, such pain. You define morality by what wounds you most deeply." The medic looked at him. "Exactly." He turned back to the group, voice hushed. "Then tell me, if given the chance, would you stop killing entirely?" Morrow's answer came like iron. "We've tried. Every time we forget what violence costs, we have to learn it again. But maybe someday, if we remember hard enough, we won't need to." Thalren ended the session there, but his thoughts spiraled. The humans had given him no comfort, no absolution, only a mirror. And in that mirror, he saw a truth the galaxy had long forgotten. Peace without struggle isn't wisdom, it's amnesia. The medic didn't attend the next session. Her absence didn't go unnoticed, not by the aliens, not by her peers, and least of all by Professor Thalren. In the galactic data logs, humans were categorized as Type P survivors, creatures shaped by environmental hostility. But that label failed to explain the look in her eyes, the stillness of someone who'd stared at death too long and refused to look away. Thalren found her hours later in the Institute's Lumina Gardens. Artificial stars shone through the transparent dome above, painting her figure in fractured silver. She sat cross-legged beside a patch of alien flora, her hands moving carefully among glowing vines. "You skipped the follow-up symposium," Thalren said gently. She didn't look up. "There's only so much philosophy you can take from people who've never bled." He paused, unsure how to answer. "I didn't call you here to debate. I wanted to understand what makes you different from the others." At that, she gave a small, tired smile. "Different? No, just tired in another way." The professor waited, sensing the gravity behind her words. Finally, she spoke. "I was stationed on Mars Outpost 9.
Civilian settlement, a crossfire zone during the Titan incursion. We weren't soldiers. We were medics, engineers, teachers. When the bombardment started, half of the outpost was vaporized in the first hour. Dalaran's bioluminescence dimmed to a cold blue. How did you survive? I didn't really. Not the part that mattered. The professor froze. I spent 3 days pulling people from the rubble. I ran out of anesthetic by the first night. My hands were raw from cauterizing wounds. I remember one boy, maybe 12. He kept asking if his mother was okay. She wasn't. I lied to him anyway. Silence. The professor tried to speak, but she went on. On the fourth day, I collapsed. When they found me, I